Hey everyone, Griffin here. Today I wanted to talk about the game between G2 and Fnatic. Um, Specifically, I wanted to talk about the fact that G2 were just barely on the cusp of winning the draft phase, and I wanted to specifically also talk about the Vayne pick. Is it the pick here? I've seen a lot of discourse online, specifically Reddit and Twitter, about the individual plays, of G2 and generally the reckless flash forward that everybody has seen at this point. I think individually they did not play their best. I think it is what it is. However, this video is not going to center on that, and neither is it going to center around the talk about the pauses. Do I think that the pauses were fair? No, I don't think that the pauses mid-fight were fair. I think they should have waited until after the fight. Do I think that it should have went to chrono break? Absolutely. I think Hylissang's champion bugged out, and I think that should have been chrono broke. I guess I don't know what to call it. So regardless, let us get into the draft. So the first thing G2 ban is the Xin Zhao, and then we see from Fnatic a ban of the standard bans, kind of going into Varus, Kalista. I don't really like the Kalista bans. I want to preface this. I don't like Kalista. Kalista is a terrible fucking champion. I think she's really bad. I think that unless you're unless your team comp is so good in the early game that you're just going to crush every single team fight that you fight, I think it's absolutely worthless to pick her. I don't think she's a good champion at all. I think she's actually pretty bad. I think her scaling is dog shit. I think that she loses steam way too fast, and I just don't think Kalista is ever a pick that is viable, okay? On the other hand, however, Varus I think is a good pick. I think Varus is a good ban because it's just really standard. It's very safe, a lot of damage output. It is a really good pick, and I think that it's valid to ban it. The LeBlanc ban, I get that it's kind of giving respect to Caps. I don't necessarily think LeBlanc is an overpowered champion by any margin. Regardless, they do ban it. It is what it is. On to the next ban, which is going to be Viego. I think Viego is a pretty good ban against specifically Bwipo. I think Bwipo has shown himself to be a very good Viego player. I think he's really good on the champion. I think the respect that is given to him through this champion is definitely warranted. I think Viego is generally a busted champion, especially in the hands of somebody that's really good at the game. Regardless, the final ban from Fnatic, or rather the third ban from Fnatic, is going to be the Gwen. The Gwen, I think, I still think it's too early, believe it or not, to make to really say if Gwen is a good champion in pro play. I think I think her W is broken. Do I think that she's generally broken? I actually do. Now that I think about it, I actually do think Gwen is broken. Do I think she warrants a ban? I don't think that she's that you can't play against her. That's one thing that I don't think, is that you can't play against her. I don't think that you can't. It's possible. Just if you don't want to deal with it, ban it. Sure, I don't have a problem with the ban. Now the thing we see here is the Thresh pick. So first off, I don't think Thresh is a first pickable champion. A lot of teams, like, I don't know why, but a lot of teams have this like obsession with Thresh, especially in these like recent like seasons or splits rather. These two splits, Thresh has been a priority pick for like super long time. I still don't see it, even though I've watched the T1 game where Keria just carried. I don't think that I don't know if there is any other support in the world currently that can pull off a performance like that with Thresh. I don't think so. I have not seen it, and until I do, I'm not going to change my mind. Until I've seen somebody do what Keria did that game, I'm just not gonna be like very convinced with Thresh being a good champion. I don't think he's a bad champion necessarily. I just don't think he should be this highly prioritized. I think he's just okay. So the picks coming in from Fnatic here are going to be Tristana and the Mundo. So Mundo, I don't think is a bad champion. I think he's not blind pickable. I don't think he should be. I don't think you should be able to blind pick him. I really don't. I don't think that Mundo is a champion that you can or should want to blind pick because he's a champion that really has uh, a lot of weaknesses, specifically in the early game against a lot of bruisers. Believe it or not, if for example, if you wanted to pick something against Mundo as a blind pick, you could just pick Tristana here or Irelia. Sorry. The thing is, Mundo here can be seen as a flex pick between top lane and jungle, which is why I think they prioritized him as a blind pick, because if you pick something to counter sim top lane, you know they're just gonna pick something, they're just gonna pick it jungle, right? But the thing is, it doesn't really matter if you pick him jungle or top lane; he's still going to thrive. I don't think that if you pick Irelia here, that you really give that much away. So for example, if you pick Irelia here, Mundo is still going to get shit on top lane, but the thing is, Irelia can just go mid instead, right? And it doesn't matter. So I think the Irelia, like, this is one of my biggest like grievances, is like, Thresh is such a high priority pick, yet Irelia is somehow like failing to be so. Like, I think you should like insta-lock Irelia when you have the chance to, like, this isn't solo queue, right? Like we can draft around Irelia, right? And when you can draft around Irelia, that means that Irelia can be a good champion. And Irelia is already broken. So if you can draft around her brokenness, why not just pick her immediately? Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially because we picked Diana Lucian. Do think Diana's a really good champion. I don't think she's a very good champion into Mundo, so I'm not sure why you would pick a jungle necessarily. I don't think it's a bad champion against Mundo either. I just don't think it's a. I think it's like a neutralizing matchup, right? Like, Diana isn't really gonna get ahead, and neither is the Mundo, right? So if they picked it against the Mundo jungle, then it's okay. But the thing is, I don't know. I don't know. It's just weird to pick Thresh and then pick Diana Lucian when you have Aurelia. Like for example, I think Diana is a fine champion. I just don't know why we're like having such high priority, or why we put such high priority on picks like Thresh or Lucian. I don't think Lucian or Thresh need to be this highly prioritized. Also, especially when you're playing against the Tristana. The Tristana is a flex, but the Lucian really isn't. The Lucian can only go mid lane. The Tristana can go either AD carry or mid lane, right? And now you might be saying like, oh, but Lucian is an AD carry champion. No, he's not. Let's not kid ourselves. Lucian is not an AD carry champion. He cannot play ADC. He's just gonna get fucked by every single one of them. Okay, especially by the likes of Tristana. So I just don't think that the Lucian pick was good. I think you can pick Irelia here. I think it actually fits your composition by now with Diana and Thresh. I think Irelia fits very well. However, Fnatic take the initiative and pick Irelia themselves, which is a good thing because Irelia is fucking broken. Irelia Mundo, picking Irelia with Mundo actually makes a lot of sense, because the thing is, Mundo gets hard countered by Irelia. Mundo can barely play the game, to be honest with you. Like, it's that sad when it comes to Mundo. So the next bans here, I think Aphelios is actually a really good ban. You're kind of pinching the AD carry pool, and you're making Reckless have to go in these like not as good AD carry champions when you already have a Tristana, and you're probably trying to pinch him into like something like a Vayne or a Ziggs, anything that Tristana really sorry about that, Tristana really wins against, in lane specifically. So following the Aphelios ban, we have a Set ban. I'm not actually 100% sure why we're banning Set, because if we're going to pick Vayne, and I don't think that you would pick Vayne if you didn't see the Alistar, even though she's good into Mundo and Irelia. I don't see why you would ban Set. I'm not sure what the Set really wins against here. Does he win against Lucian? Not really. He doesn't win against him. In fact, he like has a very large problem against him, because Lucian Z just makes Set wanna fucking cry. So I'm not really sure about the Set ban. If it goes top lane, then you can just, counter pick it, unless they last pick it, which, like, why would you pick anything? Like, there are not a lot of champions that lose lane to Set, and most of the champions that lose lane to Set are not good champions in competitive play. Regardless, another ban comes in for the AD carry pool, which is going to be the Ashe. The Ashe, I think, is okay. I think this is one of the weird spots where Ashe is actually good against Mundo, who, cannot be CCable, but the thing is, because he cannot be hard CCable, he can still be affected by slow, and when he's affected by slow, you know, he gets hard kited. Irelia also kind of gets fucked by Ashe, the new Irelia specifically, because of her downgrade of Q speed, and once you slow her, she also like has slower speed as well, and on that front, Tristana is also like not that bad of a pick against, or Ashe is not that hard of a pick against Tristana. I think it's an okay lane. It's not anything too hard. And G2 opt to ban the Braum. Now, I'm not 100% sure if Braum would be picked over Alistar here. I think it could. I definitely think it could, especially with Tristana. And you should probably ban around it if it could, other than if it will, because, Hillisang maybe doesn't play a lot of Braum and doesn't show it, but, 1 in a million he will play Braum, right? Like, that's probably the mindset, and it's fine. Braum is okay here. Alistar pick, however, I dislike. I don't think Alistar is crucial here. I think you could pick something better. Probably like a Leona would be much better against this composition. And sure, you're thinking like, oh, but Thresh counters Leona. No, he doesn't. He really doesn't. He counters Leona as much as he counters Alistar, okay? That's as much as he counters Leona. Same fucking... It's literally the same... Like, Leona and Alistar are the same champion, except Leona is better because she has more CC. And Alistar has, like, survivability, so that makes them, like, separate. It doesn't really make them any separate, okay? And the thing is, they have... Actually, now that I think about it, they have Leona has more CC than Alistar. Well, that's not entirely true. Alistar and Leona have basically the same amount of CC and the same amount of survivability because, Leona has W, whereas Alistar has ulti, but he has the CC break and the passive, which is really strong, by the way, 100% really strong, unlike Leona's. That was just like that was like an ironic pause, like, those like pauses where you let the fucking sitcom people laugh. That's basically what this pause was, okay? I just think Leona is a much better champion than Alistar. I think if Leona is banned, you could probably play Alistar, but if she's not, then why wouldn't you just pick Leona? That's kind of how I see it. I think she has a more reliable engage. I think she has better, longer engage potential. And Alistar's, he has this W, which can sometimes be really useful in like close quarters when you have to push someone away. But when you're playing Alistar, you're not really looking to push someone away, right? Like, that's not really like what you want to do. And with Leona, you can even kind of do it better because you can just immediately Q somebody and run away, or you can use your ulti even, like, and you can use your ulti from long range, so your range is always higher than Alistar's, even though Alistar is supposed to like have this full-on engage mentality with this W. Regardless, I'm not gonna like take this too long. Now here's the pick that I've been dreading to talk about because I've thought about it a lot, and I don't think it's a bad pick. As it stands, as you're watching this right now, Dr. Mundo, Irelia, Alistar, all of these champions fucking suck into Vayne. And there aren't a lot of AD carries that you can even pick here. I think Kog'Maw you can't pick because you picked Thresh, and now you basically have like an engage comp with Lucian and Diana, and Kog'Maw just doesn't want to play with that. I don't think Reckless plays Mage's bot lane, which is kind of sad. The funny thing is, I think Karma would actually be good here. Regardless, Vayne is not a bad pick. That's what I want to say. However, she does really poorly into Tristana, and she's marginally worse than her. Tristana scales harder than Vayne in the current meta. From like, not from personal experience, but like from generally like weighing the options. Tristana gets more range. Vayne is consistently short range. I think the thing is, a lot of people misjudge the champion. Vayne cannot be picked in the same situations that she can in competitive play where she can be picked in solo queue. If you see this composition in solo queue with Vayne, you can 100% pick Vayne if you're the player and be like, oh yeah, you know what I mean? It's showtime, baby. If you're in competitive play, this becomes so much harder. Specifically because you already see the Tristana, who is a really good pick into Vayne. She destroys her in lane. She has harder scaling, more damage, more damage just by the fact that she has more range. Okay? However, you do not know what the last pick for Fnatic is going to be. Now, this is the problem with Vayne, is if the Mundo decides to go top lane and, Fnatic pick, I don't know, a Karthus? That's where you start seeing Vayne kind of harder to play, where she is constantly zoned by herself and by her lack of range. Because if she ever gets out of pocket, she's going to be met with a W from Karthus. She's going to be met with like a W from Tristana, and immediately everything else. And then she can't really escape because the W from Karthus is really gonna fuck her up. And even if she somehow makes it out, the Karthus R is going to follow up. Now, I'm not going to talk about the individual plays, I've already said this, or how it was generally played. I'm just here to talk about the draft, okay? And whether or not this is a spot for Vayne. This would be a spot for Vayne, okay? Don't get me wrong. I don't dislike this Vayne pick. However, with Diana and Lucian on your team already, I just cannot see it work. I've been thinking about that, like, live watching the game itself. But after I, like, watched the game, I was like, maybe I was wrong in the Vayne. She seemed to do a lot. However, I couldn't shake this feeling off that something was missing, even though the Vayne was, like, it felt like an okay pick. It felt like it did much. It felt like Reckless could 1v9, but something fell off. And I'm going to talk about what it is in a second. I just want to finish out this draft. So, I don't want to talk about this, okay? I really don't want to talk about this. Why are we picking Gragas? Okay? Like, please. The Gragas wasn't bad, sure. But as a pick itself, this is, I don't know. It just feels like, I don't even know. It feels like you're wanting to throw a Hail Mary. Okay? Like, but the thing is, you have so much, like, I don't even know what to call that, like, counter synergy? Anti-synergy with Thresh and Diana. You have so much anti-synergy with these two champions. Even Lucian to an extent, though much less. The only synergy you have with as Gragas is with Vayne. And he does kind of okay into Mundo. It's not like a good pick into Mundo, so it's like, eh. It's what Gragas top lane does, okay? It neutralizes top lane. But the thing is, Mundo likes it when it's neutralized because he actually thrives off of it. Yes, Gragas also kind of thrives off of it, but Mundo wants to have a neutralized lane so he doesn't have to worry about dying. And in the end, we're going to see that, in the actual game, if I were to watch it, Mundo is fucking thriving, okay? He doesn't give a shit. However, to round out the actual game, it's Karthus, okay? Jungle Karthus, I think Buppo has already shown his Karthus once. It was pretty good. Here, I don't think he played it masterfully, but I still think it's a very good Karthus spot. I think it's really good into Lucian, I think it's really good into Diana, and I really think it's good into Vayne. So, with all of that out of the way, let's move on to what I think should have happened differently. So here we have the entire draft from G2 versus Fnatic. Yes, there's a singed here. It's just because Gwen isn't available here. So let's just rename this G2 and Fnatic. Okay. So when we look at this two team compositions, what are we looking at? Okay. What do we want to see? What is the point of both of these drafts? Okay, so G2 really want to engage, okay? They really want to engage with Diana, with Thresh, with Vayne, with Lucian, but the thing is they also have some sort of disengage with Gragas, okay? Who can both engage and disengage. Fnatic are a very versatile composition, okay? They can both engage, disengage, take the engage, re-engage. There's a lot of things they can do with this composition. I think this is a very good composition. I don't think that the G2 composition in and of itself is bad. I just think it's problematic against the enemy composition. Okay, because Fnatic's composition is really like can really thrive off of being engaged upon. The picks for G2 here are not the best. So, what would I do in this particular game? Okay, what would I draft with Vayne? The Vayne was very hard to pin down because at first I thought Vayne was a problem. Vayne can't be picked here. Vayne cannot be picked in competitive play unless there's 4 tanky champions and just one short range AD carry. That isn't necessarily true. Now, how is it? How is it that it's not necessarily true? Well, the thing is, first off, I think after B1 Thresh, Tristana and Mundo come in. I don't think you pick Lucian. You either pick Irelia, but let's say because Fnatic picked Irelia, let's say they don't pick Irelia anyway. So instead of Lucian, I think you can just go Karma. I think there are tons of better mid laners than Lucian if you're wanting to play like this. Now, of course, you might be thinking like, but they didn't know that they were gonna play Vayne. Regardless, I don't think you want to pick Lucian. I think with this composition, being versatile as it is, you could just pick Karma because it can go top lane against Mundo. It's pretty good into Mundo. And then if you do end up picking like a hyper carry, you can just pick Karma. So, what else could you have picked? You could have picked Karma. Kayle, this is a very good Kayle game instead of Gragas, for example. You pick like Karma here, and then instead of Gragas, you pick Kayle, and now you go like this. Okay? This is what you do. And your composition is fucking insane. Okay, so this is the order of the picks, right? This is how it is. So it's still B1 Thresh. What the fuck? B1 Renekton, yeah. God, thank the Lord that it's not happening anymore. B1 Thresh, R1, R2 Tristana and Mundo. Then you go B2, B3. You can't go Diana. I think Diana is fine as a blind pick because you're not really anticipating the Karthus, I think, at this point. I think you should ban Karthus instead of Set because you've seen Bwipo play it, but, you know, it is what it is. So you go Diana and you go Karma B3, okay? They go Irelia R3 because Irelia doesn't actually lose to Karma. It's not a great matchup for Irelia. It's just, you know, not a losing matchup. And if Irelia in this current meta can play a non-losing matchup, she's okay with it. Because, again, she's going to play into Lucian, which is also not a winning matchup, but it's not a losing one, so it's fine. So once they do this, everything goes as planned. Then they pick Alistar, you pick Vayne, and then you pick Kayle. And so what does this team composition become then? It is the same composition that you were going to play earlier, just a lot more focused on specifically Reckless, but also the Diana. With Kayle and Karma, you can really go in. Like, the thing is, Fnatic cannot neutralize the engage if the engage is consistent of this, okay? If it's just engaged champions into this is like a oops, sorry about that. So no, I lost everything. Fuck my life. Okay. I'm not even gonna talk about the bans. Fuck it. Let's just look at it like this, okay? Screw it. I fucked up. God damn it. So regardless, we have a Kayle here and we have a Karma here, and this composition is basically the same. Maybe they pick something else because, you know, maybe they want to keep Mundo jungle because, you know, Karma into Mundo is pretty good. Whatever they pick here, it really doesn't matter. It can be Jace for all I care, okay? It just doesn't fucking matter. If you can see Kayle here and Karma here, this composition here, Fnatic's composition, cannot neutralize the engage because G2 isn't just every single champion engages like here. It is a one champion engage, a front to back, which is weird because they don't have any tanks, right? They have Karma and Kayle, and then a front to back after the engage. But the thing is, they have supportive carries. So the Kayle is a carry, right? She's a very strong champion, but she is supportive of the engage, and she is supportive of the front to back with her ulti, with her W, with her range. And then you have Karma on top of that with her shields, with her movement speed, with her W, with her slows from her Q. Everything works together in that sense to create this I don't even know if what to call it. I haven't thought of a name for it, though I should, because I've thought about this kind of like team composition and team fighting style a lot. It's like putting the enemy in a box. It's not like you're engaging on them, right? Yes, you're technically doing it, but it's more so like you have a box right in the middle of the rift where you're gonna fight, and nobody can get out. Not you, not the enemy team, until it is over. Right? Until the fight is over. But if you're being engaged upon, then you have a little hole in the box that we've saved, that we've saved from previous times. Now we have a little hole, and that's a cheat sheet. That's where we're gonna exit out of, because we have KO, we have Karma. So if we're ever being engaged upon, we just pop the fucking, we just pop out the exit from the other side, and we go away, and then we close the exit as we come out. So now we can't be chased because we have too much movement speed, too much pressure. Because believe me, you have too much pressure when you play this, when you play like that composition. Kale, Kale is one of the, I think, best champions currently in the game. I fucking hate the fact that nobody is picking her in competitive play, though I understand that it's super hard to practice her in solo queue and in scrims, because scrims, as I've heard, scrims tend to be a lot more bloody, a lot more aggressive. So KO is kind of hard to play in these kind of games. It's hard to learn her. Um, but you can still do it. KO is so good, man. She is like one of the highest, like, genuine pressure champions. Okay, when you hear of pressure, you don't think of Kale, but Kale puts on so much pressure on the map, because it's like, yeah, she starts from level 1 and then she gets level 6 eventually. She has to, no champion doesn't get level 6 unless they go AFK, right? Or there's a remake or whatever the fuck. And then she eventually gets to level 10, and you're like, okay, guys, there's one more level that we can, like, just crush Kale. And then after that, we really need to, like, watch out. Because at level 11, she gets insane wave clear. And once she gets insane wave clear, you're, like, 5 levels away from just your game being ended. So once Kale gets to level 11, and with the proper team composition like the one I mentioned previously, Kale can never really get collapsed upon. Because if you constantly shadow her and then have Vayne or Karma, or rather you shadow her with Karma, and you have Vayne just pushing something else, or not even pushing, but like trying to freeze or whatever the fuck. With the Thresh and with a Karma, you can just constantly shadow her and she cannot die. And because she cannot die, she gets fed resources, she gets fed EXP, she gets fed gold, and suddenly KO is a problem, guys, okay? KO is going to fucking blow up, and we're all gonna die. And Irelia cannot play against KO, except for the early game, okay? So that is one thing. That this might be bad with KO, is because of the Irelia. Irelia is really good into KO because KO can't really do anything. However, in mid lane, a shorter lane, she can still stay in range of XP, and if she's, not brain dead, she can dodge the E's, right? Unless the Irelia is like a god at the game or something, and like she hacks the game to make her E, like, I don't know, close down twice as fast, okay? So that is what I would love to see. So let me just, like, do this. Put it like that. Just do. And instead of KO, you can also pick, like, Sejuani here, maybe. Genuinely. But that's, like, getting off theme at this point. It's like they couldn't really probably think about that far, you know what I mean? But with the Karma, they definitely could have. Like, whatever they pick here, they could have picked with Karma. It doesn't matter, because she does well into Mundo. So, like, once Mundo gets locked into jungle, it's fine, like, she just has to play a neutralizing lane, which is totally fine. Okay, and here we have Mundo. Like, the biggest problem with this certain composition, now that I'm, like, thinking about it while I'm doing this, is the fact that Tristana shits on Vayne so hard. The thing is, yes, technically Tristana cannot W onto Vayne because of Vayne's E, and then it's seen as a favorable matchup, quote unquote, in solo queue. but it is really not a favorable matchup in competitive play where you can play around the range of Tristana and the damage of Tristana, and you don't have to, the Tristana doesn't have to be like, yo guys, just wait a second, you know what I mean? Because Tristana just shits on Vayne due to range. They have about the same damage, if not Tristana out damaging her with her E. And then on top of that, she has an ulti for disengage, and she has, or for self peel rather, and then she has also auto attack range, right? That grows with level. I just think this would be a much better composition in dealing with that, especially with the Kale, than what they did, which is just like. And now, like, I don't think this is necessarily a bad composition by G2. I have to preface the whole thing by saying this. I don't think this is necessarily a bad composition by G2. I just hate seeing how much priority they put on Lucian and how much priority they put on Thresh, and then just a random Gragas pick for no fucking reason. There could have been a million other picks here instead of Gragas, even with this composition. So like, oh, but what could be a good pick? What could be a good pick here instead of Gragas? Oh, I don't know. You could go probably GP. You could probably go Cho'Gath and then try and, do the same thing that you did, even better with Gragas, right? You could probably actually go Ornn here, okay? I also want to mention that instead of Lucian, you can go Seraphine. You can go Seraphine, you can go, there was another pick that I said you could go, but it was like, Ziggs, I was thinking about, you could probably play Ziggs, but it's kind of a hard matchup into Irelia, because Irelia just gets to actually, like, play the game, and you don't want that. Irelia can't do much against Ziggs in a 1v1, but the thing is she can farm it out because she's never going to die to him because of her W. Okay, so basically Seraphine, Kale, I don't even know, like... Karma mid lane would be fine instead, right? So this is like a prime Kale, Karma, Seraphine mid lane spot, okay? I don't think Seraphine is bad. If you think that Seraphine does poorly into Irelia, not really true. She does the same as Ziggs, except that, she's actually going to be useful in team fights once Irelia gets items. Whereas Ziggs is kind of hard because she just constantly dances around, or Irelia constantly dances around team fights to the point where you're never going to get a fucking skill shot on her unless she walks into your W or E, okay? Whereas with Seraphine, you're constantly going to be pumping out damage, you're constantly going to be pumping out healing, you're constantly going to just be charming the entire enemy line, if not even Irelia. So I think that would have been better, especially with a Vayne, though I'm presuming that they just didn't think that they were going to pick Vayne, which at this point, like, just, I don't even know what to say, you know what I mean? Like, just weigh out your options before you pick everything. So, like, stop picking high priority picks just because they're high priority. Think about the overall draft. Do you think Lucian would be better here if you had Aphelios? So let's say this Aphelios wasn't banned, right? And this Vayne was Aphelios. How good does this draft look, by the way? Huh? How good does this draft look? Oh wait, it looks fucking pathetic. It looks fucking disgusting. Like, what is this, man? And they could have won with this as well, as well as the other composition, sure. But still, like, why would you handicap yourself on purpose? And that's basically what I'm trying to say, So the takeaway from this video, yes, that was a Vayne spot. Yes, Vayne misplayed that. However, Vayne is a really hard to pick champion in pro play, and you really have to know that you're going to pick her before you do. Okay, so you can't just make random picks with her, and then like say, oh, this is a good Vayne spot, and then just pick Vayne. You can't do that. Not in competitive play. Okay. If you're gonna pick something like Lucian and Diana and Thresh, you probably don't want to pick Vayne in the end. And yeah, what AD carry would you pick instead of Vayne here with the banned out AD carries? I genuinely have no fucking clue. You maybe could have picked Karma instead of Vayne. Yes, but why am I advocating for Karma so much? I really don't even know. Like, at this point, I don't know. It's just like, Karma is such a good pick right now. I don't know why people aren't picking her that much. Like, I think Karma would be good here. I think Vayne is fine if the composition is different. I think, I don't even know, man. Like, Jhin would be terrible. I saw somebody say Jhin. Like, no, Jhin would just be so fucking horrendous here. It's insane. Caitlyn, I think, would be good here. Much better than Vayne with this composition. I think Ezreal would be fine as well. But that's basically it. So, as this video has gone on for too long, in my opinion. I'm going to leave with the fact that please think about what you're drafting, and please don't just draft champions on a whim. If your team or team comp can't support it, do not pick the champ. It doesn't work like that. Okay. With that all out of the way, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you disliked it, please leave a dislike. If you think it was good, please leave a comment. If you think it was fucking shit, then please tell me. Um, regardless, I'm going to also be streaming, so check out my Twitch. My socials are also in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.